Hey folks, good morning. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Fireside Chats at Lake Superior Art Glass. Today I'm going to be demonstrating a 2.5 inch Twilight Zone series marble. So this is a black and white vortex with some dichroic glass in there. I've actually got a great picture to show everyone as an example. I just sent some pieces out to be professionally photographed and got the pictures back, and they turned out awesome. So you may have seen this photo already. I know we had it up on our Facebook, I think, yesterday. But for those of you checking it out for the first time, that is what I'll be making today. A little bit different colors of the dichroic than that one, but that is the Twilight Zone Vortex. 2.5 inch size, so again, another little big one, a little bit bigger. So it'll take us probably 90 minutes, something like that, probably like it was the other day. I've already gone ahead and pulled some of the prep work. I've got stringers here. So stringers, when you take a full-size diameter of rod and stretch it down to the thickness you're looking for. I prefer about 2 to 3 millimeters. So I've got some white and some black for the stripes that I'll be putting in there. And I've already got my dichroic glass prepped up on some little handles here. So there's a piece of, I think that's Rainbow A. So that's the dichroic piece, one of two that'll be going in there. The other piece is kind of a bluish tint. It doesn't show up as dramatically, so I'm not going to show it to you guys, but it'll have kind of a bluish hue in the end. Or maybe gold. I thought it was blue, but yeah, it's going to be blue. So yeah, with that, we're going to get started. I've got my clear glass ready to go. Got all my colors ready, I think. I tried to prepare everything last night, so we'll see if I got it all ready or not. Thanks again to everyone for all the orders. We had a ton come in over the last day. If you guys didn't catch it, our hummingbird feeders are on sale on our website right now, so that's one of the first items that we are doing a sale on. They're great spring things with the turn of the weather, although we got some snow today here in Duluth, so it's not, full spring yet, but it's starting to feel like it. So hummingbird feeders are on sale. We got 75% off of a ton of paperweights. And there's a bunch more jewelry on the website now too. I heard we just got Tom Crosby's pieces photographed and uploaded to the website too. So keep checking out the website. We're always adding new stuff. And thank you guys again so much for all the orders. Amber is back in our shipping area, working away today, trying to get all those shipped out to you guys. So we really appreciate it. So there's my clear glass that'll be going into the marble. All of this will be the inside of the vortex and then the lens. And that's what this piece entails right here. It's about 10 inches of 20 millimeter rod. So we'll start by applying the dichroic. Kind of a streak, probably from a scratch in this rod, so I'm going to take that off right now. One of those minor details that who knows how much it would show up in the finished piece, but it bugs me, and I would be really annoyed if it was pretty noticeable in the finished piece. So I'm just going to take some time and get rid of that right now, just kind of swiping it away. I was just talking with Jody, our marketing manager, about these videos, and we're going to start putting them on YouTube. So if you guys are big YouTube followers, please follow us, like the videos as you see them, subscribe. yeah, we'd like to start getting these out there to more folks who maybe don't know about Lake Superior art glass, but are just more interested in the glass blowing we're doing in general. So yeah, check us out on YouTube and keep an eye open for all these videos to be added there. They're really great resources for any glass artists who are looking to learn about different techniques. I'm trying to balance the demos between making them enjoyable and entertaining for everyone, but still providing a good amount of knowledge for glass blowers who are watching as well. So again, this dichroic glass is very sensitive material. I'm only heating the side that does not have the coating on it. Dichroic glass is quartz crystal and different metal oxides, including tin, coated onto a sheet of glass, done in a pressurized chamber at, I believe, about 400 degrees. So it kind of just looks like a really pretty piece of mirrored glass, essentially. But the name dichroic, meaning two colors, is because this piece of glass has both a reflected color property as well as a transmitted color property. And so that's where the name dichroic comes from. Alright, so we got that one on there. You can see all those pretty sparkles. I love when you can see it through the clear glass like that and it gets magnified. All those sparkles come out. Now I'll add the other piece. This one is, I believe, a piece of CBS's splinter dichroic. I don't remember which one. There's a couple different splinter types, I think. Or it might be one of their rainbow sheets, actually. I bet that's what it is. The splinter is really, really sensitive to the heat, and it likes to basically come off of the glass before you can get it stuck onto your piece. And this one isn't doing that, so that tells me it's probably not the splinter. It's probably from the rainbow sheet. Making sure my temperatures are just right. Alright, so we got that one on there. It's a little more faint, like I said. It's just kind of like a bluish sparkle, but kind of hard to see. So, got our dichroic on there. Now we'll basically fill in between those two pieces with stripes of the white and black glass for that Twilight Zone effect. When you're applying stringers like this, it's really easy to get them too hot and lose control. And so you probably can't tell in the video, but I use the edge of the flame a lot so that I'm just barely getting them in the flame, and that helps keep control of those stringers. Much better than getting them liquid hot and trying to control that molten glass when it's so thin like that. Always make sure you have plenty of stringer pull, because there's nothing worse than being in the middle of a piece and realizing you do not have enough. Never hurts to have more than you need. You can always use it on the next project, but kind of stop mid-process like this and pull a stringer is a good recipe for cracking your peas. Alright, so now we're going to melt all that in. Get rid of any ridges and valleys, try to make it all nice and smooth. Auntie Dainty, are you calling Peggy handsome? Oh no, that's 2 sentences, okay. I said, hi handsome Peggy Hess Johnson. That's my aunt and mother-in-law watching. Don't mind us. We're a quirky bunch. So again, since this will be a vortex, I'm squishing it into a rectangular shape. I really like the ridges that provides on the inside of the vortex. Gives it a lot more dimension rather than a straight cone. It's kind of like it's almost waves that spiral down into the vortex, or almost shelves that you can follow. Nice, glad I can provide some good background, Peggy. I hope it's not too distracting. Now I have to be careful when I'm melting this in because that dichroic is still sensitive, even though it's sandwiched between the clear core of the cylinder and the outer clear layer. If I get this too hot, it'll still burn out. I'm trying to be really careful about that. But at the same time, I have to make sure things get melted in pretty smooth. Otherwise, I'll trap air bubbles. I add my next layer on top of this. Alright, thinking that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to add a layer of dark cobalt blue just to act as a backing essentially so that you can't see through the dichroic glass when you look into the marble. The black and white colors don't need the backing since they are opaque. You wouldn't see light through them anyway, but just easier to back the whole thing. Alright, I've got that all coated now with cobalt blue glass. So I always use my little paring knife here at this stage to kind of pull down the glass. Right where your first wrap meets, there's always a little valley, which would kind of end up as a V in the equator area of the marble. So I pull that down with the butter knife to help get rid of that. So I'm going to get this layer melted in. And as I'm melting it, I'm going to keep an eye open for any bubbles that would need to be popped. That's a really common question I get too with my marbles is, how do you avoid bubbles? And there's a lot of things that go into it, and really just, doing best practices really helps to avoid bubbles and just knowing how bubbles get trapped. But, you do still trap some, and sometimes you can get rid of them, sometimes you can't. So it just kind of depends. looking pretty good. I don't think there's any bubbles that really need to be taken out there. I've started trying to get in the habit of the rod that I use to twist this up. Basically has the potential to help me make another marble. Depending on the size, and each one's different. Sometimes there's enough extra material to make a new marble out of the excess. Sometimes there isn't. So I kind of figure I may as well try to make another marble out of the excess, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you know, I've spent all this time up until now preparing this, and that's all time I would get to skip on the next one if I can use the excess from this one to make the next marble. So that reminds me, I forgot to put my Kevlar sleeves on. So haven't needed them yet, but the next step I definitely will from all the radiant heat. So while I'm waiting for this step to cool, I'm going to put those Kevlar sleeves on. Still hot enough to move, so I got to make sure I keep this on axis while I'm putting these sleeves on. All right, so now I'll heat up my rectangular section where the pattern is, get it super hot, and then I'll start twisting by spinning one hand a little faster than the other. And that's going to spiral the vortex. So again, another really common question I get is, you know, how do you get that stuff inside of the marble? And this is it right here. This this setup that I just did, everything from the beginning till now, that's the inside of my marble. That's the whole pattern you'll see inside. So the simple answer is from the inside out. You start with the clear core, you build your pattern around it, and then you basically encase that pattern and keep layering around that. Alright, so we're twisting it up here, getting a real nice spiral going. And then I'll start working on the equator, right where my pattern starts and the clear begins. Get that nice and hot. And then I'll start feeding in clear glass to kind of open up the vortex or that pattern and start building up that lens. Never fails whenever I get to a point like this where I absolutely need both hands. The glass is super molten. I've got like a little hair on my nose or something that I've got an itch that needs to be scratched, and I swear I never have those situations happen until I absolutely need both hands working. It's ridiculous. So I'm kind of mildly squeezing together, not a lot of force, but a little bit, some moderate force. Pushing that clear glass into the vortex and opening it up to start establishing the equator of the marble. Alright, so you can see how much wider it is now. That's all clear glass I've squeezed down from that rod. Squeezed down almost 50% of it at this point. And this step is just to help make sure I don't shock that clear glass. So I was heating, you know, one area and it was super hot and I was squeezing, and then right next to it was pretty cold, and that's a pretty dramatic transition, and that clear glass will want to crack sometimes during this next step because I don't put any heat over there for a while. So this is just kind of helping to even out that stress, take some of that stress away and even out the heat base. Oh yeah, looking inside right now you can see a little bit of the dichro. It's looking really, really sharp. You guys can start to see a little bit of that pattern there. So now I'm going to work on tapering this to a point. Sit back, Amber. I don't have to go get the door today for the postman. Amber's here. Alright, so we'll start stretching that cone. You sit back, Amber. So this one doesn't look like it's going to work out to make another marble from. That's fine. Again, it's always worth trying. You can see how much I'm tapering that now. Alright, now that's the type of cone I like to see on my vortexes. It's got a little bit of a swoop to it, a little more of a parabolic curve, and that makes for a really nice infinity look. All right, so now we start the coating process, just wrapping a bunch of clear glass around that cone to fill it in and start building out the back half of the marble, essentially. This rod is a bunch of short pieces from other projects, just all melted together. Perfect application to use up some of these short pieces of glass. And doesn't matter if there's bubbles in here or anything like that. This layer all gets hidden. So and really, I would say this part of the process right here is probably one of the biggest secrets to the Vortex as far as understanding how it works. Once I get this clear layer on there, I'll show you guys, but you'll be able to pretty distinctively see the Vortex still inside of the clear glass and not, you know, but the outer shape is still more spherical. So that, in essence, is the trick to making a Vortex marble. It's maintaining your cone on the inside and building the outside into a spherical shape. All right, I'm gonna melt that in and see how it's looking. Really easy to do too much clear glass in that layer. I am making a 2.5 inch marble. So since I'm on a little bit bigger scale, I might end up going with a little bit more clear glass on that layer, but we'll see. The other thing with Vortexes is it's really easy to make your back half with the Vortex in it more than half of the marble, and they never end up looking quite as dramatic when that happens. So I really always try to shoot for the pattern half to be literally just half of the marble, and then have 50% as just clear glass lens. And that's harder to achieve than you might think. You really have to be intentional with this step right here in your layering, and knowing that you have enough clear glass left for your lens to get the size you're shooting for as well. And so I guess that's another thing too to mention, that, you know, I try to make very specific sizes in my marbles, just because I have specific prices for them, and that's what I sell on my website. And so I'm trying to hit those sizes as close as I can. So making in between sizes is not always a good option for me. And you know, if you're making marbles more for fun, or you don't have those kind of guidelines that you need to meet, then it's not as big of a deal. You can make a 1 3/4 inch marble or a 2 1/4 to keep those proportions right. But for me, when I'm trying to hit these exact sizes, it's really important that I'm methodical and strategic about it. Yeah, as much as I'd like to add another layer, I think I'm going to stop there. I think that's going to get us pretty close. So take a look at that. You can see that cone inside of that spherical shape. And that, my friends, is the key to a vortex. There's a quick look inside maybe. You guys can see some of the dichro and the spirals in there. All right, now we're going to cover that up with black glass to hide all those layers. So again, I'm using black violet. In my opinion, the best marble backing black that exists. On this first layer, it's really important that you go just a little bit higher than all of your other layers at the equator. So that cobalt blue layer that we put around the pattern, you want to overlap that just by a little bit, so you don't get any windows. Basically what will happen is if you have the clear that I wrapped around that cone, if I let that get exposed to the lens, and you'll get this weird little window where you can see around the cone of the vortex into that clear abyss, kind of between the layers. So that's another little pro tip there for vortex making, is always with your outer color, making sure you're covering up the equator where your pattern starts. Always need to go just a little higher than that. Which there again, that's one of the other reasons it's really easy to get more than 50% of your marble as the pattern half. So making sure you don't overbuild this back half and leaving lots of clear glass for your lens really help to avoid that situation. So as a reference, that for this marble setup just used about 1 full rod of 7mm black glass, just to coat this backside. So that's why I go through so much black violet every year. Every marble takes anywhere between, you know, probably half a rod up to, you know, 4 or 5 rods for the really big ones, maybe even 6. I think my 5.5-inch marbles take about 5 rods of black glass to really cover that backside. Alright, now we're going to melt in that black layer, getting it super hot. That way any bubbles that may have been trapped round out and kind of show themselves. If you don't get this layer super hot, those bubbles don't condense and round out, and then they'll surface later on in your process. So really get this layer super, super hot. So another friendly reminder, you guys, all our apparel is available on the website, our Hot AF stuff. This is an old staff shirt. That one's not available online. You don't want that one. It's been sweated in a lot. But yeah, we've got hoodies, t-shirts for the kids, for the adults, women's cuts. Yeah, might not have all the sizes and colors right now. We kind of held off ordering every size and color for all the different styles, but yeah, hop on the website, check that out. Got to pull down that little V right where my wraps of black glass met. Well, so far this is looking really good. I'm not seeing any bubbles that are going to require any popping, so that's awesome to see. Alright, so we've got our black fully melted in. One little hole there, you can see that white spot. That's where I didn't get a piece of black over the surface, so it just glows a different color. I'll put a little patch on there, and then that'll all kind of melt in as I do the next step here. So all right, so now I'm going to punty up to the back side and melt down the rest of my lens, getting everything really close to the final size and shape, and then I'll do my background design. Punty is just a temporary handle used to bridge the axis of the piece. So I'm working on what I consider the southern hemisphere of a marble, the color with all the side with all the color on it. And now we're putting a punty on the south pole so we can start working on that northern hemisphere. Building heat to that equator right now is super important. Nothing's really changing at this stage. I'm just putting the heat where I'm going to need it for this next step. So thankful for my Duluth coffee company. Oh man, I'm so glad Eric is still roasting beans, because boy, if they stopped, I don't know what I would do. Some of the best coffee I've ever had. We're going to really crank things up here. This step just requires a lot of heat, so the faster I can build up that heat, the faster this step goes. That was kind of a lesson I learned fairly early on. Not early enough, I guess, but you know, maybe 7, 8 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, maybe 5 years ago, that don't wait around for things to get hot. If you can turn up your torch and make things go faster, do it. You know, time is the biggest investment we've got in most of our work. And if you can decrease the amount of time something takes, that's a win. So even though I don't need a Cobra or a torch this big to make a 2.5-inch marble, it can help me do it quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but it'll help me do it a little faster. Ooh, I wish I had my apron on now. Got one of the Frost River wax canvas aprons. Actually, my in-laws got that for me years ago, and man, has that been a game changer. Right now, my t-shirt is so hot, my nipples are burning. No joke. I really need to stand like this to keep my t-shirt off of my nipples because it is so hot. That's how much radiant heat comes off of this thing at this point. It's pretty crazy. Again, if for some reason the video cuts out, it just means my iPad probably overheated, so don't be alarmed. I'll get things back up and running if needed. I think we should be okay for this size of marble, but once they get bigger than this, you gotta have things at least 3 feet away if they're sensitive to temperature. I actually had a bag of gorp about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet to the left of my bench yesterday, and I made a 3.5-inch marble. And when I got done, all the M&Ms were melted in that bag. I was like, yeah, I guess I should have thought about that. All that lens has been melted down now. I'm gonna let things cool for a bit. I'll take off my punty and put heat back into that southern hemisphere. Start getting it close to matching the northern hemisphere. That'll be the first time I use the mold to help with the shaping process. Another misconception, a lot of times people hear the word mold and they just assume that it's just glass poured into a mold, and that couldn't be further from the truth. This is a very hands-on process, and the mold is simply a shaping guide. It's up to the glass blower to get this marble as close to round as he or she can, and the mold just helps to true it up at the very end of the process. Oh yeah, nice tight vortex, I like it. Good. Now this is a stage I kind of have to wait for that heat to build up. I can't click on my outer fire because it's too wide. It would be heating up too much of that northern hemisphere. which would make me lose control and kind of help and defeat the purpose of what I'm trying to achieve here. So at this point I am limited to my second stage, which is a Mirage. That's the model of the torch size that I'm using right now. The flame size, I should say. Just getting this thing super hot. That's awesome, Carrie. Glad they're getting a chance to check it out. It's pretty fun to watch these bigger pieces come together. These are the kind of demos I don't get to do out at art shows. I got to do the little ones at art shows, so it's pretty fun that everyone can watch this process, especially from the comfort of your home. I mean, for someone to stand here and watch this, you get pretty antsy, like standing and not being able to sit and just watching me do very minuscule tasks for hours on end. So it's a really cool opportunity to check it out from your couch. That was the first time in the mold. Just about got it totally round on that try because I had a lot of heat in my marble. I'm going to do it one more time and I'll be ready to start doing my background design. Quick recap. Those of you who have watched these before know a lot of this already, but I'm using Pyrex or borosilicate glass. It's got a melting point of about 2,300 degrees, give or take, depending on how hot I'm getting it for what step. And the flame I'm using, this blue one, is actually about 4,500 degrees. I'm combusting propane and oxygen pretty much as hot as you can combust those two gases. It's a pretty high pressure flame. So we're getting really, really high temp out of it. So yeah, we're pretty much rounded out now. Quick glance onto the inside again. You guys can see that vortex there. All right, now it's time to do my background design. Again, every year I choose a different pattern. This year for 2020, I was brainstorming and I thought, well, 2020 vision, hindsight, I was like, well, vision, eyes. I should do an eye on the back of the marbles. And I was like, I should do a dragon's eye. So that is my design this year. Pretty different from anything else I've ever done before for my background patterns because it's not, I guess it's representative. It's trying to look like something, whereas most of my patterns are just that they're just patterns. So this has been a fun process for me to learn about this year. Again, it's really fun to be able to implement techniques that I've learned, a decade ago from other glass artists when I was taking a lot of classes from other artists and implement them into a design idea that I have. That's kind of what glass blowing is all about, is learning all the tricks and tips and committing them to memory so that you have those tools in your toolbox when you have the idea and you want to be able to execute that idea. So that was a dot of experimental green from North Star. Really, really cool color of multicolored green if it's covered with clear glass. If it's not, it just pretty much looks black. We're not going to see any of that color until the very end. And it is pretty hard to show you guys that color because of the angle that I have to hold the marble at when we do start to see that color. Now I'm going to add a dot of black glass right in the middle of that other dot. The black will be the eye or the pupil. The first dot is the iris. This is the pupil. I'm using Raven by Glass Alchemy. It's a really nice, deep, deep black that does not like to reduce. This would be a form of dot stacking. Dot stacking can take a number of different appearances, but the technique is ultimately the same. You're essentially just stacking dots in a specific way to achieve a desired pattern or look. So now I'm going to rake the iris, or the pupil rather. Right now the pupil is round. Dragon's eyes do not have round pupils. They're nice and long. So I'm going to take this dental pick and drag it through the glass to stretch it out. Very similar to latte art. Raking is an ancient method of patterning things. I think the Chinese were using it in artwork, and I think dyeing as well, dyeing methods, thousands of years ago. I know the Egyptians were using it in glass about 2,000 years ago. And I think it was done in glass even before that by another civilization, I forget which one, but yeah, it's an ancient patterning technique. Latte art is probably the most common use that we see for it in today's world. You guys can see that long line there. I just stretched that center dot into a long line. Now I'll cover it with some clear glass. So again, this background pattern adds a lot of time to every marble, but it's what really sets my work apart. Starting back in about 2010, I realized that I needed something with my marbles to set my work apart from any other marble maker, and so I really was attracted to this concept of marble making because you can do two drastically different techniques, both 3 dimensions on the inside and then 2 dimensions on the back. And so then I kind of took that background pattern another step and said, I'm going to limit this to 1 year. Also because I'm a perfectionist and I could spend years refining the same pattern, and kind of being a little ADD, it's hard for me to decide what I want to do. And so if I have endless options for what I can do on the backs of my marbles, I kind of get paralyzed with trying to make a decision. So by having a set pattern, it's really nice just to know exactly what I'm going to do, what materials I need, and then it gives me that chance to perfect it. So that's really what I'm all about with this craft, is taking a process and dialing it in to the point where I can do it pretty much perfect every single time. And it takes so much practice to achieve that. But that's one of those things that drew me to glass blowing very early on, is just how much practice it took to get a sense of mastery to it. And in my experience, they say it takes 10,000 hours to master something. And in glass blowing, as I'm sure is true in a lot of other mediums, it can take 10,000 hours to master one process. I've put in my 10,000 hours for marbles. Wouldn't say I've mastered them. I'm pretty good at them, but always room for improvement. But like Venetian style drinkware and stemware, you know, I've taken 2 very specific classes on that topic from world-renowned glassblowers, and I still suck at them. I haven't put in my 10,000 hours because it just was not something that I wanted to dedicate the time to. You know, that's not a direction that I wanted to go with my glass career, was making stemware. I still make some, and I implement those techniques, but it's nowhere near as refined as I wish I could do them. But that's the thing about glass blowing, and really anything, you just got to practice it a ton. And that's really what led me to glass blowing too, is that when I was 17, I tried blowing glass with a torch like this for the first time and was immediately hooked, and I had already tried to, my first time trying it was, my intention was to schmooze my way into an apprenticeship. So I already knew that this was something I really wanted to learn, but I had a lot of hobbies at that point. I played about, 6 different instruments and had a recording studio in my mom's basement, and I was working part-time jobs, going to school, and by the time I was 19, I had really fallen in love with glass blowing and the challenge that it produced, but also how tangible it was for the results. With music, if I practiced something to the point where I kind of perfected it and I could play a song, well, I could just do that. I could play the song, but I couldn't show anyone that unless I had my guitar with me or whatever it was, and it's just not the same. Whereas with glass, it's this physical item. You can show the fruits of your labor. And so when I was 19, I realized that I had this desire to master something in my lifetime. And at that point, glass was the thing that was really calling my name the most out of anything that I did. And so I basically set aside all my other hobbies and passions from the time I was 19 years old on to focus on glass blowing. And when I moved to Duluth to go to UMD, that was a big turning point, because I didn't have 2 other part-time jobs I was working. I had one, but I suddenly had all this free time, and so I really used that to keep practicing glass blowing and working on my craft. And when I finished my degree, I said, well, I've worked harder and longer to learn to blow glass than I did for my 4-year degree, so I'm going to try glass blowing first, and if it doesn't work, I'll use my degree. But I didn't want to get to be the age I'm at now with a family and say, oh yeah, I want to be a glass blower. I'm just going to quit my day job and try to be a glass blower, because it's you got to put in a lot of hours before you can make a living at it. And so yeah, I started doing it full time straight out of college in 2009, January 2009, and I was broke as a joke. I would live off my credit cards in the wintertime and go to art shows in the summer and pay off my credit cards and save up as much money as I could to get me through the next winter, and did that for many years. And then 2012 started Lake Superior Art Class, yeah, the rest is kind of history. It's been pretty cool to build it up to what it is today, and it's just been incredible, the support we've received and everyone's appreciation of what it is we do here. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. That's funny, I was trying to think of what I was talking about that led me to that. Background patterns, still working on it. So this marble could have been done probably 10 minutes ago, I bet. If I just left the back side totally blank. But again, this background pattern is something I really take pride in. And so it probably adds, on average, I would say at least 30% of the time it takes to make a marble. But it's totally worth it. That was a long tangent. right, last row of dots. And I'll stretch it into a little bit more of an eye shape. Melt it in the rest of the way. And get this thing rounded out and finished up. So this pattern this year is comprised of 35 individual dots of glass to make one dragon's eye pattern. I'm going to stretch it out to more of an eye shape. And using that dental pick. Again, cranking up the torch here. Now it's just a game of melting it all in, so no point in waiting around. Get everything super hot, get it done. My grandfather was a bricklayer and a stonemason, and I used to labor for him probably from the time I was about 13 on. You know, so I'd always be mixing mud or mortar mix for him, and he'd always give me a hard time. He's like, quit playing with it, just bring it over here, get it done. Boy, does that ever hold true with glass. You gotta stop playing with it and just get it done and get it hot, get it done. You know, keep it hot, get it hot and keep it hot is kind of the glassblower's mantra. And if you're not doing that, you're playing with it. You're dinking around, you're not getting it hot enough, but then trying to get it to do what you want to do, and it doesn't work. So then you just keep going in this cycle, and you're just playing around with it. So get that glass hot. There's only a couple of situations where you don't want your glass as hot as you can get it. Thanks for watching, Lois. Glad to see you were able to see some of it. I'm going to go to the mold one more time. I think it's pretty dang good, but just to be safe, I'm going to do it once more. use the reflection of my flame as a light source on the surface of the marble just to check for any imperfections or flaws that I would need to melt out right now. Looking really good. I'm gonna let this cool for a little bit. And I'll be putting a punty back on the bottom and melting it off the clear rod that I'm holding it on now. You guys can see that vortex right now. It's one of my favorite parts of the process where you actually get to look inside and see really how that vortex turned out. Each marble is all about planning. As soon as you cover up that clear core with your pattern, not really anything you can do to adjust that pattern. So you really have to pay attention to detail and plan it all out and follow that plan in order to get things to turn out the way you want them to. And so this is kind of the big reveal when I'll first get to look inside of this marble and see if everything went according to plan. Alright, there's a couple little flaws I need to get off of the top of the lens here. I'm just kind of swiping those away with another piece of glass. A lot of times they're just like micro bubbles that really when the piece is done you probably wouldn't even see, but they glow pretty dramatically when the glass is hot. And so it's just one of those things where if I can see it, I want to fix it, because if I leave it and it's visible in the finished piece, I'm going to be pretty disappointed that I didn't take the time to fix it when I had the chance. My grandpa always used to say, if you don't have time to do it right, you must have time to do it over. And in glass, there's not, can't go back and fix it once it's cool, so it literally would be a complete do-over, and not looking to waste 90 minutes or 2 hours of my time to missing a couple little details because I didn't do it right the first time. So do it right or don't do it at all. That's what he would say. But in essence the same concept. Now we're getting this super hot. I'm just going to do the final rounding. All right, everything's looking nice and round. We're just gonna give it a flame polish. Just getting the glass super hot. Get that surface glass nice and shiny. Anytime it touches a tool, it usually leaves a mark, so you wanna make sure you give it a nice polish at the end like this. Now we'll let it kind of hang out and cool, and I'll check it once more for any flaws or imperfections. A lot of times we'll give it one more polish after this. Right now the piece has a lot of core heat, so if I try to polish it too much now, I could potentially change the whole shape and get this thing out of round. So I let a lot of the core heat go away, and then I'll come back and give it a really quick hot polish on the surface glass to get it to do what I want without potentially risking changing the shape of the piece. Thanks, Lois. Yeah, it takes a ton of practice and patience, absolutely. In our classes, all of our students are like, oh, you're such patient instructors. And we're always like, well, you kind of have to be patient to be a glass blower because it's all on the line, and if you're not patient and you rush something or forget a detail, you're going to screw it up or maybe lose the whole piece. So patience is a key. I'm just using different reflections to check the surface of this. I was using some of my overhead lighting. Then I've actually got a window that goes right out to the back door here. And I actually like using that a lot because it's kind of a big square reflection. It's almost easier to see that move than it is to see a beam of light move. So yeah, when I'm checking for imperfections, I'm watching the reflection of light on the surface of the glass. I think that's it, folks. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse on the inside here. Here's our nice Twilight Zone Vortex 2.5-inch marble. Now I'm going to tap it off into the mold to finish it up. The glass is not hot enough anymore to change shape when it's sitting in the mold. And you'll get to see how delicately this punty is connected. It's just going to take a tiny little tap to break it free. So watch this. That was it. Tiny little tap. If I would have set that piece down too hard or moved too abruptly in a different direction with it, just the torque of that or the shock would have broken it right off that handle. And then it just falls onto the bench and makes a big thud, and if it's hot, it'll start flattening out and pick up any other pieces of glass that it's touching, and just makes a big mess. So we try to never let that happen. Now I'm going to flame polish the back side where that last connection point was. This is the answer to a lot of people's questions is, oh, well, how do you get it off and, you know, get rid of your last mark from it being held on with another piece of glass? And this is it right here. So I can't spin the glass anymore, so I kind of have to rotate like the hands on a clock to get this flame to hit it from all sides. Now we're going to let it cool for a bit. With this dragon's eye pattern, that experimental green color, it needs to be heated and cooled about 3 times before you put it away to really get it to show up as the color I want it to. So I polished it, it's still glowing, so I'm going to let it cool. Once that glow goes away, I'm going to polish it again and do that a 3rd time, and then it'll be ready to go into the kiln. We're even going to beat the goal. We're going to be less than 90 minutes today. Maybe about 85, but a little bit better. All right, the glow is gone, so we're going to do that again. All right, we'll let that cool. Gotta stay very hydrated when you're doing this, especially making big pieces, because even if you're not sweating, that heat is drawing the sweat out of you, but drying it really quickly, and so it's easy to get dehydrated if you don't stay up on your fluids. All right, that's looking really nice. Kind of a bluish color now. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. Probably not. I've tried this before. It's pretty hard to show you guys. I'm going to polish it one more time. That'll give me my nice green color that I'm looking for. And the green really comes into its full color in the kiln. But getting it kind of struck or pre-struck is key to getting that green color to go how I want it to. Sometimes I'll even blow on it a little bit to help cool it. Trying to see if you guys can see the eye at all, but I don't think that's gonna be possible unless maybe I can kind of pin it in there. Nah, there's still too much reflection. There you can see a little bit of that black iris and the blue around it. All right, now it goes into the kiln to cool slowly. The kiln's about 1,000 degrees in there. It's gonna stay at that temperature all day. And then at the end of the day, I'll run a program that'll cool it over about 12 hours. And so that's really crucial for getting something to turn out in glass blowing. If we were to let it cool on the bench here, it would just start cracking in about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, because that outside is going to cool way before the inside does, and when it cools, just like anything, it shrinks, and that builds up stress within the glass. So the kiln drops it slowly, so the outside and the core all shrink at the same time. Super microscopic level. It's not like ceramics where you're going to lose, 5% of volume or whatever the math is on that. It's it's nothing we can see with our eyes, but that's what the glass is doing. So yeah, that's how you make a Twilight Zone Vortex marble. It's kind of a newer design for me. A couple of years ago I started doing those, maybe 3 years ago. I've done the black and whites, the Twilights for a while, but then I started adding the dichroic to the bigger ones, maybe just 2 years ago. So I appreciate you guys watching. As always, we appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much for all the orders. Keep supporting small businesses any way you can. Gift cards are a great way to do that. We are working on getting our summer class schedule dialed in. So much is in the air right now, not only just with the virus, but just trying to figure out what our open hours are going to be, and what we can staff this summer. So keep an eye open for that. But in the meantime, if you're wanting to sign up for a class, we're just recommending folks buy a gift certificate, and that way when we publish the schedule and you guys know when you're available to take a class, you can just use that gift certificate to sign up for it. So yeah, we appreciate all that. Keep checking on the website for new stuff we're putting out. And yeah, tune in tomorrow. I'll be doing my signature series. So that's one of the most unique ones that I do. And we'll be putting some opals into the glass. So that's the very first step. And again, one of those common questions I get about, how do you get stuff inside? It's the first step. So right away at 10 tomorrow, I'll be starting one of those. And I think, let's see, I'll probably be doing, most of the ones that I need to make are really big. So I've got 1.5 inches that I need to make. It'll be a blue signature. So I'll just have one opal, but that would be good for the length of the demo that we're trying to stick to here. I don't want to bore you guys with a 2 or 3 hour long demo. So all the other ones I need to make are like 3 inches and up. So those are definitely 2.5, 3 hours long. So we'll do 1.5 inch blue signature marble tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Putting the opal in there is the first step. Auntie Dante asked, when you first put it in the kiln, what keeps it from flattening a bit? The glass isn't hot enough to change shape at that point. The very bottom where I was polishing with the last point of connection and where that dragon's eye was, that could be a little hot, and so I always make sure that side isn't down or touching the kiln when I put it in there. So good question, but in theory, none of the glass should be hot enough to move when it goes in there, and so it does involve finding that sweet spot. If you put it in there too cold, the heat of the kiln will crack it. If you put it in there too hot, you're going to get a mark. So there's even a science to that. So thanks again for watching, you guys. Stay safe, keep up the social distancing. It seems like everything's going pretty well. We've been helping to flatten the curve, so keep it up. Stay safe out there. We appreciate your support. We'll see you tomorrow at 10.